All right, so is it a stupid idea to fight your lawsuits locally? A lot of people innocently, they aren't even aware. The moment they want to file a lawsuit or face a lawsuit, it's always the jurisdiction is local. One of the biggest disadvantages with this is that all your local assets, right? All your assets are located where you're living, and you're exposing all of that. There's unlimited liability in some cases. Well, let's put it this way, at least it's very easy for someone to go and attach all of that legally. Once you're subject to the same jurisdiction, so you have your assets the same place, lawsuit the same place, you don't have any access outside, you don't have any advantages or any upper hand in your lawsuits. The second is the cost factor. Certain jurisdictions will not only work in your favor, but it will give you access to some very low cost attorneys. So that's going to be cheaper on your pocket, and it's going to be very expensive on their pocket, because guess what? Now they're paying their attorneys in their jurisdiction, and they're spending 10 times in some cases more than what you're spending. They have to fight with you abroad, so that's going to add more complexity. They have to pay more in some cases because their attorney might not be specialized in the foreign jurisdiction. They will have to partner with some local attorney to fight this matter for them. So you have a clear edge, right? So that negotiation becomes a lot more easier. And none of what I'm saying is any kind of legal advice, right? This is educational content. I do a lot of deep research on some of these options with my attorneys. Attorneys are right people for legal advice, but let's talk some educational content here. I'm going to discuss 3 jurisdictions which I feel are great, right? When you talk about this legal stuff or legal diversification. Now, these are not the only 3 options. There are several unique and interesting options. I just want to get started with 3 just to scratch the surface, to get some idea of what we are talking about here. And if you aren't yet subscribed to my channel, make sure to turn on the bell notification and subscribe so you don't miss out on any important information that I would be sharing. The number 1 option, or not number 1, but let's start off with 1, right? So the first option on my list here is Mauritius, right? It's a very exotic location. You start off with the residency, and a big thing over here, right, to understand is that the residency is enough, right? You have access to that jurisdiction. The way you set this up is just giving you some example. Let's say you have a business and you're drafting your agreements, and let's say you have clauses which says that in case of a lawsuit, you're always going to be subject to a certain jurisdiction, which is that jurisdiction which is most legally favorable for your business, and you're doing this legally, right? There's nothing wrong in what you're doing. This is all legally well crafted, obviously giving you an upper hand. When you sign these agreements, obviously it's a negotiating factor. The other person might not agree, but a lot of times people are like, hey, why is there going to be a lawsuit? Yes, if we want to do business with you, those are the terms, so they accept it. Now you have the upper hand right away because now you have the residency or that access to that location. So let's talk Mauritius. The residency then should ideally get you the passport, because ultimately when you have more dealings in that jurisdictions, you will start accumulating assets. Once you start accumulating assets abroad, you would want to protect those assets. When you have citizenships from those jurisdictions, you have the ultimate benefit, the ultimate protection. You are a citizen. Mauritius has very unique opportunities. There are 3 ways of qualifying for this beautiful Mauritian residency. 2 of the ways clock in at as low as $1,000 in application fees. One of those ways is for people over 50. The second way is for general public. You start a business, very modest qualifying criteria. I've discussed this extensively as part of this video. You can take a look, you can return and take a look at this one. The other option is by purchasing a property. Again, that video covers all the details. You get started with a near free Mauritian residency. We have 2 very solid Mauritian attorneys who manage this stuff for us. So you can always click the link and book a call. We can have that discussion. Mauritius is just one option. I'm going to discuss 2 more great options here. Once you have that in place, you can obviously work so you can keep the residency if you want, but if you want to convert this into citizenship, you have options as early as 2 years. In some cases, you can then apply for your Mauritian citizenship. This is a hot African passport, one of the best the most exotic passports that you can ever collect as part of your portfolio. Not a lot of people have this one. So this is interesting. The second on my list is, and the reason why I'm mentioning this second option is because sometimes you want the lawsuit to be fast and sometimes you want the lawsuit to match your pace, right? I'm not saying you want to drag it unnecessarily. You don't want to make it painstakingly slow for your opponent. But let's say you're not in a hurry, right? You want to slow things down. You want some time on your hands. Then you have some special situations that can be created, right, legally. And we're talking about Brazil here. Brazil and Argentina. Argentina is a little more crazier, but let's start with Brazil. In Brazil, based on the, let's say, the court system that you're dealing with or the attorneys that are managing your case, you can speed this up. You will have more control if you're doing the right stuff. But let's say you want to get more time on your hand, then Brazil and Argentina are two such locations where you can either speed things up drastically if you have the right strategy, or you can slow things down if that suits your needs better. Again, I'm saying this has to be done legally. This is not legal advice, but we have very solid, strong attorneys in Brazil. Let's say you have a plan B situation, then everything should be accordingly and legally worked out correctly with the right attorneys. We can get you started. Now, let's say you don't want to deal with the Latin side of things, right? You want something English speaking. Mauritius is a good option, but let's say you want something even more different. Let's say in the Middle East, then you have a very exotic option in Egypt. Not everyone's cup of tea, but let's say you have an Egyptian option. It's not about the access on the passport. It's about the jurisdiction, right? You want some unique advantages of being in the Middle East. Let's say your competitor is in the West, or let's say they are in Latin America, and you have this Middle Eastern access out of nowhere. Surprisingly, a lot of great attorneys in Egypt actually speak English, unlike Turkey. In Turkey, I think it's slightly harder, but Egypt gets you some very unique legal advantages, diversification advantages, etc. Yes, they come with their challenges. It is not a very developed nation like, let's say, in Australia or Canada. Certain things that you got to bear in mind. But let's say you aren't really living there for the rest of your life and you have that citizenship, you have that legal foothold in the country. In certain situations, that can be more beneficial, cost effective, and advantageous considering your opponent. The third on my list is Serbia, a hot, solid place. A lot of expats in some shape or form are flocking to Serbia. A lot of them are going there, establishing residencies. They just came up with the 3-year pathway to citizenship, a very flexible one. If you have missed that one, you can return and take a look at this video. This covers the entire matter in Serbia. Also, what I'm tracking is the 1-year rule on the side. If you've missed the details on the 1-year rule, you can return and take a look at this video. There's also something like VIP passport stuff going on in Serbia. Some people have been able to obtain citizenships. If you're interested in what that matter is, should you be even considering something like that, you can return and take a look at this video. This covers what that stuff is. And Serbia, I'm mentioning Serbia here is because a lot of attorneys, surprisingly, and we work with a couple of the best attorneys that we have found in Serbia. They speak English, they're very fast and tech savvy. It's a very economical jurisdiction. It's very far away from everyone. It's not in the EU, so it's not really a Western jurisdiction. It's not a Russia. It's not a Canada or a UK. It's really in that sweet spot where you have a cheap, high quality, educated system, great attorneys. Imagine having your legal battles consolidated in Serbia. You're dealing with someone from the West. Think about the cost advantages. Think about the benefits. All right, I hope you like this video. And as I said, this is not just the 3. There are several other options which can be very beneficial in unique circumstances. If you are interested, always reach us. We can have the discussion and get you started. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you're subbed and catch you in the next one.